McDonald's. It's the land of the Big Mac, the Happy Meal, and increasingly empty wallets. We're facing a strange reality, folks. The iconic Big Mac is starting to feel like a luxury item for many Americans. Remember when a burger was a simple pleasure? A quick and cheap bite? Those were the days when you could grab a meal without a second thought. Those days are feeling as distant as a working ice cream machine. It's almost like a relic of the past. The golden arches, once a symbol of affordable indulgence, are starting to feel out of reach for a growing number of people. What was once a go-to for a quick meal is now a financial consideration. It's a sign of the times, a flashing neon sign that screams, "Hey, remember that whole stable economy thing?" Yeah, not so much. The economic landscape is shifting and not in our favor. And it's not just about the price of beef and special sauce, it's about the entire experience of dining out becoming more expensive. This is about a much bigger issue, the shrinking size of our wallets versus the ever-growing cost of, well, everything. From groceries to gas, the financial squeeze is real. The problem isn't just about individual menu items, it's about the bigger picture. The cost of living is rising and it's affecting every aspect of our daily lives. The cost of groceries, rent, gas, it's all skyrocketing. These essential expenses are eating into our budgets, leaving less for other things. This leaves less wiggle room in people's budgets for even the occasional fast food treat. Families are having to make tough choices about where their money goes, and for many families, even those value menus are starting to feel like a splurge. What was once a simple, affordable option is now a luxury for some. So next time you crave that Big Mac, remember it's not just a burger. It's a reflection of our changing times and the economic pressures we all face. The Big Mac attack on our wallets is real, and it's a sign of the broader financial challenges we're navigating today. When the economy starts to resemble a melting ice cream cone, people get nervous. And when people get nervous, they hold on to their money tighter than a toddler with a half-eaten chicken nugget. This drop in consumer confidence is a key ingredient in this whole economic mess. See, when people feel good about the future, they spend money. They buy cars, houses, vacations, and yes, even the occasional extra-large order of fries. But when they're worried about their jobs, their bills, and whether or not they'll be able to afford groceries next week, they slam the brakes on spending. This lack of confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. As people spend less, businesses suffer. And when businesses suffer, they lay off workers or raise prices, which further erodes consumer confidence. It's a vicious cycle that's harder to break than a stale McRib addiction. Even the folks over at the Federal Reserve, those economic wizards with more charts than a middle school math classroom, are noticing the problem. Their recent data paints a pretty clear picture. Americans are planning to cut back on spending. And it's not just on frivolous things like diamond-encrusted back scratchers. We're talking about essentials, groceries, transportation, even healthcare. Now, you might be thinking, John, isn't that their job to, control inflation and stuff? And you'd be right. But their main tool is raising interest rates, which is about as effective as trying to put out a fire with a squirt gun. It's like trying to tell someone, hey, that burger you can no longer afford? Yeah, we're making it even more expensive to borrow money to buy it. It's not exactly a recipe for economic success, is it? And here's the kicker. It's not just McDonald's feeling the heat. This is a five-alarm fire engulfing the entire retail landscape. Even the bargain hunter's paradise Dollar Tree is struggling. They're facing shrinking profit margins and having to raise prices. Target, the supposed haven for cheap chic, is also singing the economic blues. They're dealing with excess inventory and declining sales. It seems even the allure of a $5 t-shirt can't compete with the reality of shrinking paychecks. This widespread struggle across different sectors of the retail industry points to a systemic issue. It's not just a McDonald's problem, a Dollar Tree problem, or a Target problem. It's an America's wallet is feeling lighter than a politician's promise problem. Reality bites. A disconnect between policy and people. Here's the thing that really grinds my gears. There seems to be a massive disconnect between what policymakers are saying and what everyday people are experiencing. We keep hearing about low unemployment rates and a strong economy, but try telling that to the family struggling to put food on the table. It's like they're living in an alternate reality, one where gas prices are reasonable, groceries don't cost an arm and a leg, and a trip to McDonald's doesn't require taking out a small loan. This disconnect between the lived experiences of ordinary Americans and the rosy picture painted by those in power is, frankly, infuriating. It's time for policymakers to step out of their ivory towers and into the real world, where people are struggling to afford basic necessities, let alone a Big Mac. Golden arches, tarnished earnings, McDonald's tells the story. Now let's talk about McDonald's recent earnings report, shall we? Because if there's one thing more American than apple pie, it's analyzing the financial performance of a fast food giant. And let me tell you, the report wasn't exactly a happy meal. Sales were down, profits were squeezed, and the company acknowledged that consumers are feeling the pinch. They're cutting back on visits and opting for cheaper items on the menu. Even the allure of a McMuffin for breakfast can't compete with the reality of a shrinking budget. This isn't just about McDonald's, though. Their earnings report is a microcosm of the larger economic anxieties gripping the nation. It's a canary in the coal mine, a McRib-shaped warning sign that things are not as rosy as some would have us believe. Beyond the border, a glimpse at global appetites. In this chapter, we take a closer look at how different parts of the world are dealing with economic challenges. But hey, maybe it's not all doom and gloom, right? There might be some silver linings amidst these dark clouds. Maybe this is just an American problem. Perhaps the struggles are confined to the United States alone. Perhaps the rest of the world is out there feasting on Big Macs like there's no tomorrow, enjoying life without a care in the world. Well, I hate to break it to you, but the global economy isn't exactly loving it either. The financial woes are widespread. Europe is grappling with an energy crisis, with many households struggling to keep up with soaring energy bills. China's growth is slowing down, affecting not just its own economy but also its trading partners. And inflation is rearing its ugly head in countries around the world. Prices are rising, and people are feeling the pinch. It seems the economic pain is a dish best served globally. No region is entirely immune to these challenges. While some markets might be weathering the storm better than others, they are not completely out of the woods. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that what happens in one part of the world inevitably affects the rest. Trade routes and stock markets are all interlinked, so even if you're miles away from your nearest McDonald's in a remote rural area, the economic headwinds are still blowing your way. The ripple effects of global economic issues reach far and wide, impacting lives everywhere. The bigger bite economic implications beyond the burger. So what does all of this mean? Well, for starters, it means that we need to stop pretending everything is hunky-dory. We're facing a serious economic challenge, and ignoring it won't make it go away. This isn't just about Big Macs and French fries, it's about the stability of our economy and the well-being of millions of Americans. When people can't afford basic necessities, it creates a ripple effect that impacts every aspect of our society. We need real solutions, not Band-Aid fixes or empty promises. We need policies that address the root causes of inequality and economic insecurity. And we need leaders who are willing to acknowledge the struggles of everyday Americans and fight for a fairer, more just economy. A McFlurry of challenges. Can we afford the future? The reality is, folks, we're facing a perfect storm of economic challenges. Inflation is soaring, wages are stagnant, and the cost of living is skyrocketing. Every trip to the grocery store feels like a punch to the gut, and filling up your gas tank, well, that's a whole new level of stress. And as much as we might try to ignore it, the signs are everywhere. From the worried faces of our neighbors to the increasing number of people we see struggling on the streets, the canary in the coal mine, or, in this case, the struggling McDonald's customer, is sending a clear message. Something's got to give. Even a simple meal out is becoming a luxury many can't afford. This isn't just about our wallets, it's about our future. It's about the kind of world we want to leave for our children and grandchildren. Can we afford to live in a country where a Big Mac is a luxury, not a treat? Where the joy of a simple meal is overshadowed by the stress of its cost, where basic necessities are out of reach for so many. The sight of empty pantry shelves and long lines at food banks is becoming all too common. The answer, my friends, is a resounding no. We cannot continue down this path. The growing discontent and frustration are clear indicators that change is needed. It's time to demand better, to stand up and say enough is enough. We need to come together as a community, as a nation, to fight for an economy that works for everyone, not just the wealthy few. Because if we don't, the divide between the haves and the have-nots will only grow wider. Not just the wealthy few, because if we don't, the only thing we'll be left with is a McFlurry of economic problems. The only thing we'll be left with is a McFlurry of economic problems. And trust me, that's not a dessert anyone wants to be served. And that's not a dessert anyone wants to be served. It's time to take action, to make our voices heard, and to work towards a future where everyone can thrive.